Hello and welcome back to my channel. Okay, so today's another video where I'm going to be talking about writing, but in particular the project I'm currently zero drafting and I believe getting to the end of this zero draft, which is Project Rose. And no, I still do not have a project title that is something else than project something. So I'm still working on that. I will come up with something at some point or another, I hope. In the meantime, I was tagged by the lovely Wallis in this video. I'm gonna link it down below and I'm gonna put a card here as well. So basically this is a tag about your main character. There's 10 questions, I think it is. No, 8 questions about your main character that I think are great to help you figure out who your main character is, maybe get more information about their true desires and needs and things like their past and how they were raised and things like that. So if you haven't thought about these things, this is a great exercise to try and figure them out. If you have thought about these things, you can also, go and play the game, answer the questions and see how well you know your character, see whether you have any question that you're like, oh, I actually don't really know about that, or this would be wildly different if this was at the beginning or at the end of the book, which was the case for me when I looked up the questions. I was like, a lot of them would be completely different whether I answered them for Rose at the beginning of this book and Rose at the end of this book. The title says it all. I am currently calling this project Project Rose because my main character's name is Rose. So just to introduce you very briefly to the context to this story that I am writing and which main character I'm going to be talking about here. Project Rose is loosely inspired by the last season of Angel. If you were a Buffy fan, you may or may not have watched the spin-off Angel, in which Angel goes off to LA, and in the last season him and his team take over this evil corporation called Wolfram and Hart, and it's very much a mix of corporate culture and supernatural stuff because they have to take care of demons and demon cases and stuff like that, but they're a lawyer firm, so I loved it. It was, the absurdity of it is just great and it really just resonated with the kind of stuff that I love. And something similar I feel like is Loki. So if you watch the Disney Plus TV show Loki, with, the titular character being from the Marvel series of movies, Loki at some point gets taken by this corporation that is in charge of taking care of multiple universes and timelines. I think it's timelines or universes, I can't really remember what they call it, but basically there are several different Lokis existing in several different universes and timelines, and they take care of making sure that all goes to plan and that the main events of the timeline happen as they should. And again, I loved this mix of corporation stuff and very much capitalism and what you see when you work in a big company and things like that, and supernatural stuff, complete absurd magical moments that are introduced in this corporate environment. So I don't know what it is, I really enjoyed that, and so I wanted to write a book that had this type of environment, and this is an idea I was playing around with for a while. Like, I really wanted to do this a long time ago, and it's only recently this year that I started actually writing it. Now that you have the context, I have my questions. We can get started. So what is your main character's name? How did you choose that name? And how does your character feel about their name? So my main character's name is Rose, as per the project title, which is currently Project Rose. And the reason why I named her Rose is originally because I really wanted to write this story a long time ago, when I hadn't even written my first full manuscript. My first zero draft of anything at all. I just knew I wanted to write this story when I was like a teenager, basically. I don't know when exactly, but I just remember having this concept in my mind. And at the time I already knew my main character was going to be called Rose, because I knew I wanted it to happen in London, even though I didn't live in London at the time, and now I do. So it kind of it aligned perfectly with, my life. Now that I live in London, it's great for me to write this story. It wouldn't have been great at the time because I didn't know anything about it back when I was a teen. But I knew it needed to happen in London because I had this idea of it being in a big business universe, corporate world type of thing, and I wanted to be in one of those cities, and I could picture London fitting that bill perfectly. So the reason why I named her Rose was because I love this expression, an English rose, when you talk about a very beautiful woman who comes from England. And I had a certain vision of what an English rose would look like. I'm sure that, you know, there's many different English roses out there and they don't all look the same. But in my head, I picture someone like nowadays you would think Lily James or Felicity Jones, those type of women. So maybe more like pale-skinned, brown hair, and very elegant but soft. And I don't know how else to explain or to describe them, but that's kind of what I pictured in my mind. And I knew that was my main character. I knew she had to be like that at the beginning of the story. And that's why I named her Rose. So that's it, because she was meant to be an English rose. Anyway, how does your main character feel about their name, which is the sub-question in the first question? I've never really thought about the fact that Rose had any feelings about her own name, and now that I'm trying to think about that, I still don't know how she would feel about it. I don't think she's got a strong opinion of it. I think she doesn't really care, she's just happy that people call her by her name. Apart from that, I don't think she has a strong opinion of her name. I think she's fine with it. She's not someone who cares too much about her name. Now the second question on this list is, what is your MC's zodiac sign? Even if they live in a fantasy world, everyone has a vibe. I like this. So I actually have no idea because I haven't given her a birth date. I don't know when her birthday is. Therefore, I'm gonna do tests. And instead of doing just one, I'm gonna do like 2 or 3 and see if I get at least 2 of the same answer. Okay, I have googled some astrology tests. I just typed in quiz, what zodiac sign should you be? And I've had some results. One of them is a BuzzFeed one, and I kind of feel like that's such a traditional source for quizzes that I have to do it. I found another one from astrologyanswers.com, which I have no idea whether it's any good, and another one from idealabs.com. Basically, I'm gonna try all 3 and we'll see what happens. I'm gonna try to answer them as Rose. What should your astrological sign actually be? And a reminder that this test is from 2014. So, anyways, first question, what word best describes you? What word best describes Rose? Oh god, there's a lot of options. I feel like compassionate is a good one for her. How are you with money? She does care about money, but also she doesn't care that much about it. She would say that's none of your business, but fine, I'm good with money. Yeah. Pick a vacation. I think she's a wine tour in Napa. But probably a wine tour in Italy, because she lives in London, so that makes a lot more sense. Pick a dream job. What about your romantic relationships? I think she wants a partner who cares about the world, not just himself. What would be your theme song? You Make Loving Fun, Fleetwood Mac. Lucky Star, Madonna. Harder, Better, Faster, Stronger, Daft Punk, Sexy Back. Her theme song, that's a good question, I don't know. Oh. Okay, I feel like knowing her now by the end of the book. Eye of the Tiger, Survivor. Okay, pick a word. Victory, dreams, level, chameleon, loyal, treat, cherish, clean, rain, flawless, target, slay. Slay isn't there? This is from 2014, but yes. Okay, loyal. Scorpio! I did not expect that at all. It kind of works though. I can see it. Fearless and thirsty for knowledge. Scorpios are powerful forces to be reckoned with. They can be super intense and tend to fiercely guard their secrets. Does it sound like Rose? Oh, yeah. Yeah, it kind of does, and I did not expect it at all, but I can see it. Okay. Let's do a second quiz. Which astrology sign should you actually be? Question 1, you prefer to be doing something adventurous with friends, relaxing around the house, partying, vegging by the pool. Relaxing around the house. Okay, choose a hobby. Paranormal investigation is dangerously close to the truth. I don't know if I should answer that because that wouldn't be realistically her hobby. I'd say wine tasting or watching TV sounds very much like her. Maybe just watching TV. I'm gonna say that. It's a bit basic, I know, but she's a little bit basic like that. What clothes do you usually wear? Okay, how patient are you? Usually patient, but when I lose my cool, I really lose it. I think that's a good answer for her. You've got a tough decision to make. What do you do? I'm gonna say panic. It's more interesting. It's Friday night. What's your ideal way to start the weekend? Rush to home to her family. I think her real ideal way would be go out for a quiet meal with a couple of loved ones. A friend has the blues. How do you try to cheer them up? I think, I already know the answer. It would be participate in their favorite activity with them, even if you don't care for it. But there's other stuff. Get them involved in your hobby. Just be there. Encourage them to talk about it. Yeah, this is the one. Question 12. Okay, what dessert would she be? I'd say she's a creme brulee. I don't know why. Don't ask me why. Question 13. I think that's the final question, yeah. And finally, what house would you like to live in? A waterfront chalet. Sounds great. She's a... Oh my god! It's another Scorpio result. I swear to God. I did not expect to have two of the same answer. I really thought I was going to get completely different results. What? Okay, what does it say? You resonated the strongest with Scorpio, so you've definitely got a stinger in your tail. You won't be taken moderately and you don't suffer fools lightly. You have a natural curiosity about the world around you and the people in it. You're quite intuitive thanks to Scorpio's water element. As much as you want to find out all you can about others, you yourself are an enigma. It takes a lot to get you down, but that doesn't mean you're light-hearted or superficial. Scorpio is a fixed sign, giving you a stubborn streak that drives you forward toward your goals at all costs. There's not much in your life that isn't disposable. You're intense, passionate in every sense of the word, competitive, and your personality is intricate and complex. This makes you very aware of the moods and intentions of others, and you know how to use that to your advantage. This does sound like her in a lot of ways. You feel things deeply, which means that you're great in the bedroom. Watch out for that temper of yours that may be hard to control at times though. With Scorpio influencing you so strongly, you're the epitome of still waters running deep. Well, why? The way to find out is to look into your own birth chart. Oh, then they're like, look into the birth chart. Yeah, that's interesting. So my best friend is a Scorpio and my mom is a Scorpio. And I wonder whether I've been influenced by them when I wrote this character somehow. I don't know, but that's interesting. Should I do the last quiz and see whether we get Scorpio again? We might get something completely different. I don't really want to do it. I feel like I have two answers that are the same, so I'm gonna keep to that. Okay, so it turns out the answer to the second question, what is your main character's zodiac sign, is officially Scorpio. I need to decide what date she was born so I could do like a birth chart and everything. That would be really interesting, but I just like knowing for like from two quizzes, completely different websites, that she's a Scorpio. Okay. Question number 3. What is your MC's relationship to the person / people who raised them? This is a tough one. So Rose was adopted and her adoptive parents had a biological child, a son, after her, and combined with the fact that she had a lot of issues as a child and growing up and still as an adult because she has some strange visions. When she looks at certain people, not everyone, but some people she looks at, she sees a different face on them, and not completely different, but things like supernatural elements. And I think it's pretty obvious, knowing that I write about supernatural stuff, that it's gonna turn out not to be any sort of mental illness, but real, and that her visions are actually useful. But in any case, she lives in our contemporary world, and so no one knows, or at least none of the people who surround her and her parents, her adoptive parents, do not know and understand that her visions are anything but in her head. So because of these two things, she's always kind of felt like they didn't really love her that much anymore, and that she was a burden more than anything. It's very strange because I have a lovely family. I love my mom, I love my dad, and I love my brother. Like, we love each other so much. It's sickening sometimes. And I was, you know, raised in a very happy environment. And yet I always write characters who have such fucked up and dysfunctional relationships with their families. I don't know why. But anyway, that's what I decided to do. Question number 4. So the 4th question is, what is your MC's most important memory prior to the start of your book/series? I had a bit of a struggle figuring this one out because I couldn't think of anything that would have been like stellar, like anything that would have been very important to her prior. Like, because it says what is the most important memory, does that mean I kind of assumed that meant something positive, something that's really, they wouldn't want to lose this memory. And I couldn't really think of one specific thing because I haven't figured out like her whole childhood and stuff like that. I just figured out the vibes of it, if that makes sense. So I kind of feel like maybe the memories she has as a child before things turned sour with her adoptive parents, before they had to take her to therapy a lot and pay a lot of money for it, because although this is set up in England, I know from my personal experience and from friends' experience that getting therapy treatment through the NHS is quite hard, so you would have to potentially pay for it if you want to go private, and I'm assuming in my head this is what happened to Rose, and she would have cost a lot of money to her parents for something that didn't seem to go away, which created resentment and kind of, you know, built this up into the situation that it is at the beginning of the book. But prior to that, when she was just a simple child and before they realized this was going on and she had these special visions, I feel like those would be her most cherished memories. Just being surrounded by family that is happy to have chosen her and doesn't feel like she's a burden. The 5th question is, your character walks into a library, what section do they head to first? Which was an interesting question because in the book there is actually a magical library at some point that she does walk into, and the reason she goes in there is to find out what she is in terms of the supernatural community, because when she figures out that her visions are actually a skill and a power and something that means she is other than simply human and simply normal, I guess, she tries to figure out what she is and no one seems to really know, and so there's like a lot of her researching and trying to find that out by going into this supernatural library. But were she to walk into a perfectly normal human library, I think she would head out to like romance and adventure. I'm thinking in terms of, you know, maybe movies, if that's more helpful. At least it is to me because I don't really read romance and adventure all that much. But I'm thinking like Romancing the Stone type of vibes, but in book format, which I'm pretty sure exists. I just don't know that much about the genre. And I feel like that would be her vibe, mostly because she is someone who doesn't seem to really vibe that much with anyone in terms of romance. Like, she has an ex-boyfriend and it didn't go all that well, and she only feels like the reason they got together was because he was very pushy and really tried to get her, but not because she really wanted him or found him that attractive. And she's never really found, like most of the guys that are interested in her, she doesn't really find that attractive usually. So there's a little bit of a thing there where I think she would be attracted to reading books that kind of represents that reality that she doesn't have herself. And then I think that's just very wildly unrealistic in terms of like adventure and romance mashed up together. So I feel like she would go for escapism. So books that are more about escapism would be more her vibe rather than, you know, like real life stories and stuff like that. The 6th question is, would your character survive the Oregon Trail and how? So I did have to research a little bit more about the Oregon Trail because even though I've heard of it, it's not something we really learned in school in Europe. So I wasn't too sure exactly what it was, and I just wanted to make sure I got this right. But like, one of the things I learned was that mostly people died from disease, and I feel like Rose wouldn't really get to those diseases because she's a supernatural being, so maybe she would survive that part. However, at the beginning of the book, I think she would be too trusting and she would be taken advantage of by some people or something. I feel like the dangers to her would be more that, because when it comes to using her wit and you know, even though she's kind of a softer type of character and a little bit more of a home person at the beginning, someone who likes to go to a wine tasting and stay at home and be cozy, like she doesn't sound like that much of an adventurer, but when she's confronted with it and has no other choice, which she does at the beginning of the book, there's a whole test that she has to pass, and she does really well in it because she actually has a lot of resources. She is really good at figuring things out under pressure, but she's too trusting and lets herself be taken advantage of a little bit too much at the beginning. Question number 7. What would your character ask for if they made a deal with a crossroads demon? So I think it's pretty obvious from my previous answers. At the beginning of the book, she would probably ask for a loving family. And that is kind of what she gets without needing to do a deal with the devil. Because she does sort of get a found family thing going on with her team. So she integrates a team, and it's very much, you know, supernatural investigations type of thing by supernatural beings for the supernatural community that is, you know, kind of hidden underground within the real London. Does that make sense? So yeah, she does integrate this team, and her team really becomes her found family, and they take care of each other, and I think she does get her wish in a sense. I don't really know what she would wish for by the end of the book, but there are certain passages in the book where she would definitely wish for someone else's life to be spared or saved, or to find them, or things like that. And the final question, question number 8, is what will your character think about on their deathbed? And my answer is quite short. It would probably be her team and the adventures that they went on. Really, that's about it. Like, that's, I think she would have a smile on her face and be like, damn, I lived. That was fun. That's it. I've answered all the questions. This was really fun, and I really enjoyed doing this just because it made me think about my book in a different way, and I really just liked having something different to do with my writing, because I've been just writing this 0 draft and not doing much else, and only recently, like literally this week, have I started doing some mood boards, for instance, for some of the characters, and now this is the first time I've done like a test like this, like a tag like this, to try and answer questions about my MC. So it's nice to do something related to the story without being writing the story, because that's literally all I've done with this current project. So yeah. So thank you, Wallis, for tagging me in this challenge, and I'm gonna tag someone else myself. I'm gonna tag my friend Anna Robbins, and I'm gonna hope that she hasn't done it already, because maybe she has, in which case I'm sorry, and you can choose a different character than your main character if you want. But yeah, this was a fun challenge to do, and I hope that you also enjoy doing it. But I'm also tagging anyone else who's watching this video and wants to do this, because I don't think you have to wait for someone to tag you to do it, and so if you want to do it, I'm tagging you, do it. But yeah, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a like, leave a comment down below, consider subscribing, ring that bell, all that jazz, and I will see you guys in the next one.